You know that processed foods are bad for you, so you stick with what's natural. But can some natural foods be bad for you? That's exactly what you're going to learn in this video. First, let's distinguish between natural and healthy. A lot of people think that everything that's natural is also healthy, and everything that's not natural, which is synthetic or processed, is not healthy. It's easy for us to remember this distinction, but it lacks a lot of nuance. There are a lot of things that are natural that are still very, very bad for you. For example, poisonous mushrooms are all natural. They were not synthesized in a laboratory. And yet, if you eat one, it will kill you. Poisonous berries are also natural, not synthesized in a laboratory, and will still kill you. If you're thinking, well, that's the exception rather than the rule, most things in nature are good for you. Are they really? If you were to go to a forest or a park, you'll see a lot of signs saying, don't eat this, don't eat that, etc. Most things in nature will kill you, even though they're natural. And why are these signs there? Because somebody had the bright idea of eating some random berry or some random leaf off a tree or off a bush, got either very, very sick or died. So these are things that are natural and yet are deadly. Likewise, not everything that's processed or synthetic is bad for you. For instance, in another video, I covered how whey protein, fiber one bars, better chocolates, and amino balls are processed foods. That's true. And yet they have many benefits like their protein content, their fiber content, and their micronutrients. So let's break that association that natural is healthy and synthetic is unhealthy. Now, let's talk about natural foods that may not be healthy for you. There's a saying that it's the dose that makes the poison. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with eating these upcoming natural foods in the right quantities. Unfortunately, very few people can eat them in the right quantities because, well, they're delicious and they're not very big. One example of a natural food that is extremely easy to overeat is nuts, whether that's almonds, cashews, pecans, pistachios, walnuts, etc. Are they delicious? Yes. Are they packed with calories? Also yes. 50 grams of nuts, and all nuts are about the same, contain approximately 350 calories. And I'll give you an example. I had one client who came to me from probably about 100 kilometers away and was about 30 pounds overweight. He was trying to lose those 30 pounds and just couldn't figure out why he wasn't losing weight. After all, he was exercising 4 or 5 days per week. The rest of his diet was great. He was eating lots of salads, a few fruits here and there, a little meat and fish in his diet. It was an overall well-rounded, clean diet. But he was also eating what we calculated to be approximately 1,000 calories per day just in nuts. 1,000 calories per day just in nuts. That's a lot of nuts. He was literally nuts for nuts. What did I tell him to do? I said, okay, try cutting out the nuts. If you won't miss them, if you're just munching on them not out of hunger, not out of delight for nuts, you're just munching on them just because they're around, stop munching on them. He did that and he lost 30 pounds with no other changes in his exercise or nutrition. That's a very easy food to overeat. Nuts, if you want to consume them within your caloric budget. In other words, figure out how many calories you need to eat, which I've covered in my other videos, and then subtract nuts from that. Two other foods that are so delicious they are easy to overeat are dried fruits and honey. They're sweet and they're delicious and they're natural, but they can still make you put on body fat, a lot of it. For example, dates are fantastic for you. Dates have about 6 grams of fiber in only 4 dates. That's a lot of fiber. But it's very, very easy to eat way more than 4 dates because they're delicious. Same thing with honey. 1 tablespoon of honey contains about 40-45 calories. That's a lot of calories for something that's extremely easy to eat. So again, the quantity is the problem, not the food itself. Not all dried fruits are bad. If you have only 4 dates, that's great. But if you have 40 dates, that's not great. Another natural food that may not be that great for you is tuna. Tuna comes from big fish. Big fish eat smaller fish to stay alive, and it's a process called bioaccumulation. So they inherit everything that's in the smaller fish, including heavy metals like mercury. Now that doesn't mean nobody should have tuna, and it doesn't mean you should completely avoid tuna. I just wouldn't make it your primary protein source. You can diversify protein sources. Salmon or cod or tilapia does not have the same amount of mercury as tuna. So tuna is okay for you in occasional doses in small amounts, but it's not meant to be your core protein staple. If you need help figuring out what should you specifically eat, what's right for you, no matter what your goals are, whether it's fat loss, muscle gain, improving osteoporosis, diabetes, high blood pressure, we have a program for you. We work specially with people over 50 to help them improve their health, their body fat, and their chronic conditions. If you click on the link in the description below, it'll take you to our homepage where you can fill out a quick application form for a 10 to 15 minute Zoom chat. There's no pressure, no sales pitch, no obligation. It's just to see whether or not we can help you with your nutrition and your fitness. Moving on, 2 other foods that are conditionally bad for you, not universally, are 1, gluten, and 2, milk. What is gluten? Gluten comes from the word glue. We nowadays just hear it and we think, okay, gluten is everything that's bad for you. Well, no, gluten is a very specific thing. Gluten is a binder, it's a protein that binds things together, especially wheat products. So it's found in wheat, rye, and barley, especially things like bread, spaghetti, and so on. And so when you eat gluten, it can cause problems to your digestion, but also your mental health, as I outlined in my book, The Mental Health Prescription. Now, this is not on everyone, but it's in everyone who has celiac disease. They are literally intolerant to gluten, but there's also a much larger percentage of the population that has what's called non-celiac gluten sensitivity. In other words, it's not going to destroy their digestive system, but they are going to get some kind of symptoms, whether that's joint pain, brain fog, depression, anxiety, nasal congestion, or something else. So for that group of people, gluten is not good. Now, that doesn't mean gluten is universally bad. Probably 70 to 85% of people are fine with gluten, but 10 to 15% are probably not fine with gluten. And the last one I have just listed is also milk. Now, I say milk specifically, not dairy. This does not necessarily apply to cheese or yogurt. Now, again, milk is not universally bad, but it's bad for people who have either a casein intolerance or a lactose intolerance. I don't need to tell you, if you drink milk and the whole room starts to smell, it's probably not good for you. You don't have the enzymes to break it down. However, you could mitigate those effects. One of those ways to mitigate it is nowadays they make no lactose milk, so you can drink that. Or 2, if you're going to drink regular milk, you can actually take lactase enzymes to help you break down the lactose inside the milk. Now, I also mentioned that cheese and yogurt don't have these effects. Why? They're both fermented cheese. In the fermentation process, you get probiotics or bacteria, and these bacteria help you break down the lactose and the casein inside the dairy. So if you're going to eat dairy, and it's not essential, but if you're going to eat it and you have lactose intolerance, then yogurt and cheese are better options for you, especially hard-aged cheeses. If you like this video, I have a newsletter with lots more information just like this. If you click on the other link in the description below, you'll be able to subscribe to our newsletter at no cost to you, and you can always unsubscribe.